Hey everyone, and welcome to Snook's Nap Time Nerd Talk. So pretty much what this is my kid's taking a nap, so I figured I'm going to come in here and talk about some nerd stuff. So today's topic is 7 games that made for summer all-nighters. That's going to be the only time that you actually hear that title throughout this whole thing, because it's taken me 5 takes just to get to it. I'll throw it up somewhere else, so enjoy. So, without further ado, let's get this kicked off before he wakes up. And if you stick around to the very end, I may show you some stuff that I recently picked up. So I hope y'all enjoy. So we'll get this kicked. In no particular order, we're going to start off with number 7. So number 7, Grand Theft Auto 3. As I said, no particular order, we're just going to kick off with a classic. Released in 2001, Grand Theft Auto 3 came out, and at the time it was never really like something you've seen. I mean, you've had video games before where you've had open worlds, aka Driver for PlayStation 1. And I even remember saying back then, like, hey man, it'd be so cool if you could jump out of that car and just start walking around. And as I said, it's Grand Theft Auto 3, so you also had 1 and 2. Those are like above aerial shots. I don't really recall playing them that much. I think I had the London or something edition. Anyway, we're not talking about that game. We're talking about GTA 3. So back in the summer of 2001, that's what me and my buddy played throughout probably the whole time. So, I mean, yeah, obviously you can't really play multiplayer, but we would take turns. So pretty much what it was is that you played the character of Claude, who you really didn't find out the name of until later on in the series. But so Claude was he was your main protagonist. Yeah, he wasn't a good guy, but at the very beginning, I think her name was Catalina. Y'all were doing a bank heist, and you got set up, and she pretty much left you to take the fall. So that leaves you until a little bit later. You're going down the road in I think a prison bus with 8-Ball. That somehow gets blown up. You and 8-Ball escape. 8-Ball takes you to a safe house, and that's where you have the beginning of the game. You start out by doing missions for Luigi's Sex Club 7, if I remember correctly. And I want to say some guy named Tony who got on my nerves, who worked at his mama's restaurant, or his mom owned a... Anyway, pretty sure he dies. Not sure. So me and my buddy, we would pretty much try to get 6 stars, run from the cops, jump in the tank, get to the closest paint spray whenever you could to lose all those stars, and that was our main goal. And if y'all don't know if you remember this, but there was actually no in-game map. All you had was a little dot in the corner that showed you what street you were on and maybe had marked stuff on there. Paint and spray was actually not marked, so you actually had to remember where you were going, had to remember where that location was at the same time as outrunning the police, tanks, everything. So even though you'd be waiting for your turn, it was also an adrenaline rush trying to watch your friend escape. And that made for some memorable times, and that's why Grand Theft Auto 3 is on the list. Number 6, Smuggler's Run for PlayStation 2. What surprised me after looking this up is it actually predates the Grand Theft Auto 3 by 1 year. It was actually one of PlayStation 2's launch titles. Also released from Rockstar and Angel Studios, which later became Rockstar San Francisco, I'm thinking. If you play this, it was very much Grand Theft Auto 3 like almost like they took that engine and put it there. The driving controls, the open world map, the fact that menus even look the same, it was just all you would do is you would run around, smuggle stuff, and race. But what made this memorable for me is that me and my buddy would play this into late nights playing tag. I don't know if that was actually a game mode, but we would literally go through the open world, find each other, hit each other, and then that person would take off, and the same vice versa. And what was cool is Dad would stay up with us too during the summers. And he would stay up to like at least 2 or 3, knowing good and well he had to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning to go to work. At the time, I thought that was like really cool for him to do, and I know he was enjoying himself. Now, as an adult with a kid, yeah, I do appreciate that because it sucks. So, anyway, so Smuggler's Run, not really got much to say about it. Just if you have never played it, give it a try. It's still a pretty good game to this day. I no longer have it for PlayStation 2. I need to go get it. I do have it for GameCube. I want to say Smuggler's Run Warzones, which oddly looks exactly the same game cover-wise as the PlayStation 2. So, yeah. Go out, play it. Tell me what you think in the comments if you never have tried it before. So, with that being said, let's on to number 5. Number 5, The Hulk for PlayStation 2. I know what you're thinking. Why this game? And I don't really know what to tell you. But I do remember the movie itself is one of those movies that I don't ever want to go back and watch. I just want to have those memories of liking it. But this game is based on Ang Lee's movie. It takes place, I want to say, about 8 years after the events of the movie. Actually, it does have the voice cast. Came back for it. I don't remember much about this game, to be honest. It is cel shaded, and it has helped the game itself. Look at that CIB. It has helped the game itself age. Storyline wise, from what I can kind of comprehend, it's better than the movie. So what made this memorable for me is me and my buddy would spend hours upon hours just sitting on top of a rooftop, taking bad guys and throwing them off over the side of buildings. And that was it. Like, there was nothing else really we would do. I don't even think we ever completed the whole game. It was just stupid fun. The moveset was bare minimum. You literally had just a few things. I think your meter would grow and you could Hulk smash. I don't even think we actually completed the game itself. But from what I recall, you could play as Bruce Banner and you could play as Hulk. And Bruce Banner missions were kind of more like stealthy missions and puzzle solving missions. So obviously not our favorite. It was the other ones where you were Hulk and you just cause destruction because it's Hulk. And that's pretty much it. I remember getting so frustrated at my buddy because I wanted to go outside and swim and he just wanted to sit there and play games all day. And I mean, I guess that's what we were doing. But hey, so with that being said, let's move on to number 4. Brings us to number 4, San Francisco Rush, released on December 24th of 1996. So you know what that meant? If Santa didn't have it ready or on pre-order, you probably were not going to get this on Christmas Day. But this was a port of the arcade version. And that's what made it. I don't know if y'all remember playing that in arcade, but you had Cruis'n USA and you had San Francisco Rush. I loved Cruis'n USA. It would always be one of my favorite arcade system, one of my favorite Nintendo 64 games of all time. But this was San Francisco Rush. This was on another level to me. The arcade system itself, you had massive like speakers and subwoofers in the back. It was like just playing like a rock star of a game. So that when it got ported to the 64, it was exciting. And what Atari did porting it, they actually made more game modes. And it wasn't just like, hey, we're going to throw this on a cartridge. No, they made a good, memorable game. So as far as playing it, it was the same way. Like, it was like playing the arcade, but with more. Yeah, graphics and the sound was not there, but as far as a good time, playing all night long, playing, I want to say time trials, or I don't think you could just play around. But throughout the game, there was different shortcuts that you could take that would lead different ways and get you in front of people. But there was also secrets to be found. I want to say one of the levels, there was like a fountain area outside of a building that you could, as long as you were playing around, you could ride on top of this fountain. Now, I mean, it's blocky. I don't know for sure if it was a fountain. You ride on top of it and your car would just bloop, and it didn't even look like it was going to water. It would just fall in a pit. You would grab the secret and that was it. I don't even think you could get out, maybe. But so besides that, me, some friends, we would play all night long, have a great time. I didn't remember this, but supposedly you could do cheat codes where you can turn the construction cones into bombs, things like that. That might be something later on that I might be willing to go back and try again to see. I mean, it's San Francisco Rush. I ain't going to be sad if I have to play it again. So that brings us to the end of it. Let's move on to number 3. Number 3, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time, for the Super Nintendo. So just like San Francisco Rush, this was a port from the arcade. If you don't remember playing this in the arcade, I'm sorry. That was one of my favorite memories. Taking my dad's quarters, playing the video games, wasting them all, and then him expecting me to somehow pay him back. But it was released in 1991, so I'm 6. So what did you want me to do, Dad? Did you want me to go sell my toys? No, that didn't happen until later on in life, and I'm still being stingy with them. So in 1992, Konami released this on the Super Nintendo, and I want to say for maybe the PC and maybe for Sega Genesis, but I think it was released as Hyperstone, something like that. Anyway, that don't matter. We're talking about this one, the Super Nintendo. So, very faithful to the arcade. I want to say Konami may have added a level or two. Also changed up a few of the villains. So like at the end of the third level, instead of fighting No Boss, you fought Rat King. At the end of the Technodrome level, you fought Rahzar and Tokka. At the end of the Pirate Ship level, you fought Rocksteady and Bebop instead of Rahzar and Tokka. Don't know why I remember all that stuff, but I do. Anyway, so it's 1992. Bring this home. Me and Dad's rocking that out summer nights long. I think some of my favorite memories is playing on the Pirate Ship. Playing Big Apple 3 a.m. One of the most iconic names for a level ever. Like you can hear it in your head. Big Apple 3 a.m. And Neon Knight Riders. Like the colors, everything. Back then as a 7-year-old and Super Nintendo, that was top tier right there. And being a huge Ninja Turtle fan, still am to this day, this was one of my favorite video games ever made, if not my favorite video game ever made. So, but yeah, memorable days, me and Dad rocking out Ninja Turtles, him not having to give me quarters, and we're just playing along. So that's the end of number 3. Let's head on to number 2. So number 2, WCW NWO Revenge, still the most iconic wrestling game to me. This is the game that I played hours after hours, and one of the first wrestling games I ever played, to be honest. Released in 1998 from THQ and Haka? Either way. It was their last WCW game. So, back then, I think this was one of the first ones to actually have, like, legit entrances, even though, yeah, it didn't have the songs. It had, like, maybe 2 different songs for every wrestler. But, whatever. That don't matter. It had, realistic-looking movements for that time. So, 60 wrestlers. I want to say you had different factions. You had the NWO Black and White, the NWO Red and Black. You had Raven's Flock. You had the WCW Main Eventers, the Mid-Carders, the Cruiserweights. You had fake factions. They were kind of maybe based on real people. And then you had just some made-up dudes. And I want to say, then you could actually edit the attires, which was something I've never seen before in a game. So if you wanted to make Hollywood Hitman, or if you want to make Sting a member of the NWO, Black and White, or heck, anybody. You can make Rey Mysterio, Black and White, DDP. It didn't matter. Or take Hogan, make him real American again. Whatever it was. Back then it was awesome. You had Surfer Sting. I think you even had WWF version of Lex Luger on there. Battle Royals, amazing. You get up to, I want to say you could play up to 40 people on the Battle Royals. I want to say that was the only game mode that you could have Sting come down from the rafters. But also the opening for this game, one of the most memorable openings I've ever seen for a wrestling game or in a game in general. But yeah, still to this day, me and buddies rock this game out. But back in the summers, all night long, if somebody stayed over and played, or me and Dad going back and forth trying to beat each other, but he didn't know I knew the little trick of smack the controller stick and you kick out every time. Some of my favorite memories was going to Toys R Us and sitting at the kiosk and watching the trailer for this game over and over and over until I finally could get my hands on it. And I think it was cool because back then, also it had blood and all this stuff, like, still, like, amazing game. So with all that being said, we're going to wrap this one up because the little man kind of woke up on me. So now we're going to speed run through the rest of this because it has taken me a long time to get through this list. And I do apologize. So if you did not see my first one, I will not talk about that one. Technically, I'm going to claim this as my first one. This is just a way for me to learn, to kind of talk to you, to become a better presenter, to just overall learn like different types of like ways to make the videos look better, whatever it may be. I do appreciate you making it all the way to number 1. If you can make it past number 1, I'll be happy to show you some stuff that I've picked up lately to kind of end this video. So with that being said, let's get past number 2 and let's go on to number 1. Number 1, and that is GoldenEye 007. Surprise! I bet you did not see that one coming at all, did you? But yeah, anyway, that released in 1997. I think close to one of the launch titles for the Nintendo 64, but not quite. Definitely one of the first person shooter games I ever played in my life. I mean, yeah, you had games like Duke Nukem and Doom, but this was one of the first in-home console games that I remember bringing home. But definitely the most iconic game to me when I think of multiplayer. Yeah, nowadays you have Call of Duty, you have Fortnite, stuff like that. But that don't matter. That don't have anything to sit on the ground playing with little controllers trying to learn how to play, but also having 4 different people playing at the same time and then getting onto each other because you're screen watching, and then other guy being like, no, I'm not screen watching, but you're kind of having to because you have no clue where you're at because you're still trying to learn these stupid controllers that once you master, you're never going to forget them. It's like a bicycle until the Switch comes out with theirs, and then you're like, man, I miss that 64 controller. But besides that, this game is still highly replayable. I remember not too long ago, me and a buddy went to a coffee house, and it was like one of those that had like some old school retro arcade or retro consoles and stuff, and that's the game we picked out, and we played for a good hour, just sipping on coffee and playing video games. I mean, and this made for some memorable summers, if not all the time. I remember it wasn't just friends, it was cousins, it was uncles, it was me and Dad rocking out hours upon hours playing multiplayer, playing, I mean, heck, even watching each other play campaign mode was fun. But if I'm not mistaken, there was like 11 different multiplayer levels throughout this, and I think some iconic ones like Facility, Basement, Library, Complex maybe, Temple. I'm just trying to throw some ones out there. I'm surprised I'm actually remember all these, but yeah, I mean, you would spend, I mean, this is to me like, when I think of summertime playing games, this is the one that stands out the most. And so, but yeah, you also had your cheat codes like Donkey Kong mode where you walk around with big heads. You had paintball mode. You had Golden Gun, which if you don't know what that is, that's a one-shot, one-kill. That's almost like playing Halo with a laser sword. You had dynamites you could play, or grenades you could play with, rocket launchers. Like, so many endless types of different ways to play this game. And that's why throughout the years, like, this is one of the most go back to play games ever. So with that being said, I'm going to leave that there, and that brings us to the end of our list. Thank you again for staying with me. Thank you again for struggling with me. As promised, if you stuck with me throughout the list, I was going to show you some things I recently picked up. So with that being said, let's close this topic off, and let's do that. Alright, so the last thing I picked up, and no, this was not the kid, but this is unfortunately what happens when you go too long. Say hey, buddy. Say hey. Can you say hey? Yeah, wave. Say wave. But anyways, so besides the baby in the diaper, mine, but the Saba, the White Ranger. But it's the White Ranger, the Saba sword. So, but yeah, I used to, yeah. So I used to have this back in the day. And mine's definitely not in this shape. So when I seen it, I had to grab it. So yeah, so that's going to bring us to the end of this video because he's hungry, he needs some clothes on, and he probably needs a diaper change. But thank you guys for making it through this video with me. Yeah. Even the screensaver says it's done. So there it is. So go out. Remember, be kind, retrowind, and I'll be seeing y'all soon. Yeah, okay.